I was about to study abroad and go to Spain. And for years of my life, I always really struggled with very painful, just terrible periods. And it affected my monthly day-to-day life. And I decided for a while not to go on birth control, but as I was preparing to go study abroad and didn't want that experience to be hindered in any way by something that I really couldn't control, I ended up going on a generic of Yaz, and I didn't think anything of it. I was told it was safe, but almost immediately after starting it, once I had gotten to Spain a few months later, I started to experience a lot of different symptoms, from shortness of breath to constant coughing. In fact, I was coughing so much that I had rib pain, which eventually turned into a broken rib. And I really knew something was wrong when I was with my mom on a trip to Mexico. We were on the plane getting ready to go to baggage claim, and I remember I was struggling to get from the plane to baggage claim. And I remember sitting down while we were on the way, and my mom looked at me and she said, "Something's really wrong with you." Once I got back home, I went to the doctor, who did a bunch of different tests. Finally, I had a CAT scan. And after that CAT scan, I remember going back up to her office, and she was sitting there waiting for me, which is terrifying. You never want a doctor to be sitting there waiting for you. And she told me, "You have extensive blood clots in both of your lungs. You need to get to an emergency room right now." Eventually, I did find out that both of my lungs were almost completely covered in blood clots. And unfortunately, I had a ginormous blood clot almost completely blocking my pulmonary artery. So the doctors thought that I was going to go into shock and die. And they told me that I needed to have an emergency heart catheterization. So I underwent that, and luckily that dissolved that clot, and I didn't really have to worry about how that was going to affect me anymore, but I still had lots and lots of other clots in my lungs. We also found out that I was suffering from pulmonary hypertension because my heart was under so much strain. I was very slowly going into heart failure. And that was very terrifying to know. I ended up seeing a pulmonary hypertension specialist who had actually seen a lot of other very similar cases to my own. And from there, that started a journey to figure out if I would be diagnosed with a disease called CTEPH, or chronic thromboembolic pulmonary hypertension. Eventually, my pulmonary hypertension specialist did determine that I did in fact have CTEPH, and that the best option for me going forward to have a full quality of life would be to go to San Diego to have a very rare surgery called a pulmonary thromboendarterectomy. But basically what they do is they stop your heart, and as they stop your heart, they pull out the clots from your lungs. It's very scary, but I knew that it was my best shot to be able to live a normal life. So on Valentine's Day of 2020, I had my PTE surgery. It was definitely the best and worst thing to ever happen to me, but I'm so grateful that I was able to have that surgery and that it was able to give me this second chance at life. I don't think that women are properly educated and informed. And so I do think a lot of that goes back to the medical professionals. I think that medical professionals should be giving better information to women, but I also think that women need to know that they can ask questions. A lot of people assume that blood clots from birth control is so rare. People aren't really talking about it too much, but it's actually incredibly common. My biggest piece of advice would be to ask questions and do your research.